We're spending a few days exploring Vienna, diving into its history, food, wine, and the landmarks that define this city. From grand palaces to neighborhood markets, we're here to experience as much as we can in a very short visit. Let's get sipsy, y'all. Vienna's story starts with the Romans, who set up a military camp here along the Danube River almost 2,000 years ago. The location was perfect for trade, defense, and eventually for growing into a cultural powerhouse.
But Vienna really stepped into the spotlight when the Habsburgs chose it as their seat of power. For more than 6 centuries, the city was the nerve center of the empire, shaping everything from politics to architecture to the way cafes look and feel today. The Baroque era hit Vienna like a makeover montage. Palaces, churches, and grand boulevards transformed the city into something spectacular.
And then came the music. Mozart lived and performed here, Beethoven wrote some of his most important works here, and Strauss basically turned Vienna into the world capital of the waltz. The 19th century brought another huge shift when the medieval walls were torn down and replaced with the Ringstrasse, a sweeping boulevard lined with monumental buildings, museums, the opera house, parliament, and the university. It's basically a highlight reel of Vienna's greatest hits, all in one single loop.
The city changed dramatically in the 20th century, surviving the fall of the empire, 2 world wars, and decades of political reshaping. Today, Vienna blends its imperial past with a city that actively protects and celebrates its cultural heritage. Because we're here during Christmas week, the city is doing that very European thing where everything opens sometimes. While we're packing in as much as we can over the next couple of days, a few spots have limited hours or are closed altogether. We're rolling with it and making the best of whatever Vienna gives us.
And you'll see some familiar faces in this one too. That's because Jason and Paige are joining us again, and if you watched our Prague video, you already know they are the friends who will happily drink with us at the nearest bar. So the 4 of us are taking on Vienna together, Christmas quirks and all, ready to explore, eat, sip, and see what this city is like during one of its most festive weeks of the year.
Good morning. First day in Vienna. We need to get some work done this morning, so now we are heading to lunch with our friends Jason and Paige, and then we're going to go explore the rest of the day from there.
The Böhmischen Kuchl is a cozy spot serving traditional Bohemian and Viennese comfort dishes, the kind of cooking that reminds you that this region was once deeply connected under the old Austro-Hungarian Empire. The menu leans very hearty, so think dumplings, roasted meats, rich sauces, and those slow-cooked dishes that warm you from the inside out. It's the type of place where lunch feels unhurried and a cold beer or glass of Austrian wine fits right in. If you want a taste of Vienna's cross-border culinary history, this is a great way to experience it. It's simple, nostalgic, and full of flavor.
Just leaving lunch. Oh my gosh, you guys, it was absolutely amazing. I got a potato pancake that had Bohemian cheese and ham and onions on it. I couldn't finish it. It was so big and so good. Chris got
beef goulash, but it was not served with dumplings. It was served on top of a potato fritter, but it was really good.
And now we are heading down south of town to go to a Christmas market.
We decided to cover the Christmas markets in a separate video, so we'll go ahead and have that linked down below in the description if you want to check that out after this one's over. St. Stephen's is the heartbeat of Vienna, a Gothic giant that has watched over the city for more than 700 years. The exterior alone looks like someone handed a medieval architect a box of crayons and said, "Go wild." The Gothic spires and patterned roof tiles, the way the whole thing seems to rise out of the square. Fun fact, Mozart got married here and his funeral was held here too. So you could say this cathedral has seen just about every emotion possible. We popped into Café Alt Wien, which is part of Vienna's long coffeehouse tradition. It dates back to the late 17th century. And if you're here, you have to try Wiener Topfenstrudel. This is Austria's lighter cousin to apple strudel, made with creamy cheese instead of fruit. The pastry is paper thin and crisp, and it's served with a warm dusting of powdered sugar or a drizzle of vanilla sauce, which is what we went for. From here, we caught up with our friends and went to the Christmas markets for the afternoon, where we got dinner and eventually went home to go to sleep.
Good morning. It is very cold this morning in Vienna. It's supposed to snow tonight, 1 to 3 inches if you believe the weather forecast, so we will see if that actually happens. It's supposed to start raining this afternoon. Don't know how much we're going to be able to get done today, given that it's so close to Christmas, things are closed, and now we're about to have some fun wintry weather. But let's see what we get up to.
The Votive Kirche was built as a thank you after Emperor Franz Joseph survived an assassination attempt back in 1853, which is quite the thanks you didn't die gift. Construction began in 1856, and the result is a church with tall twin spires and some of the most beautiful stained glass in the entire city. It's less crowded than other major churches, which means you can actually take your time and notice the details.
Vienna City Hall looks like a Gothic castle somebody accidentally filed under municipal buildings. Built in the late 1800s, it is grand and dramatic in all the best ways. The tower, the arches, the perfectly symmetrical facade, it all feels straight out of a fairy tale. Depending on when you visit, the square out front is almost always hosting something, from Christmas markets to concerts to random events you stumble into and end up staying for. Even if nothing is happening, it is a gorgeous photo stop and a fun reminder that Vienna does everyday architecture at an entirely different level.
Naschmarkt is Vienna's open-air, always buzzing food hall, and it hits every craving that you didn't know you had. It's been around since the 16th century, starting as a milk market, but now it's a long ribbon of stalls serving everything from pastries to spices to seafood and wine. Locals shop here, tourists snack here, and everyone seems to find something they weren't planning on buying. If you love tasting your way through a city, this place is basically your personality type. Grab a bite, grab a glass, and enjoy the chaos in the best way.
We came down to Naschmarkt for lunch today. As you guys can tell, it is cold. It has started to drizzle rain. So we're gonna go find somewhere, hopefully inside, for us to grab a quick bite to eat. We're gonna go warm up at a wine bar.
Weinorgel is one of the more visually stunning wine bars in Vienna, tucked into this little space that feels half cellar and half old world tasting room. The name translates loosely to wine organ. They specialize in Austrian wines, especially bottles from small producers, and the staff is known for being generous with their recommendations.
Wine bar number 1 in the books. The place was great, super small, absolutely adorable. All Austrian wines except for one. We had 2 rounds, and now we're gonna head to another wine bar to grab a drink. Wine bar number 2 down tonight. That one was great. We've all got really unique wines. Now we're gonna head to number 3.
So we popped into Kuchl Bar, which is really more of a pub. And this place is really cozy. The menu is mostly flatbreads, and it is 3 pages of flatbread, so you're not going to go hungry here. We didn't have dinner plans tonight, wanted to be a little more low-key. We actually tried to get into the wine bar next door called Fino. They were absolutely packed, totally fine. We ended up here, and this place is charming, so I'm really glad we did.
My baby beer is because Jason and I are sharing a pitcher dongle.
It is absolutely delightful.
This place is great. All right, we had dinner at the pub. It was great. We are heading home for the evening, and we will see you guys tomorrow morning. Good night. Well, hello again. It is winter mixing, so it's raining, kind of sleeting, snowing right now. It's only sticking to the cars, so that's the good news. And we are off to go find breakfast. Breakfast was good. We went to Cafe Stein. It was close to our Airbnb. We just didn't really feel like wandering too far in this. It is supposed to stop snowing by this afternoon, but right now we're going to go ahead and walk over and show you guys around some of the sites here.
Even if you are not museum people, this one is worth the stop just for its cafe alone. This place exists because the Habsburgs collected art like it was a competitive sport. The Kunsthistorisches Museum opened in the late 1800s to finally give all of that art a home, and they clearly wanted the building to match the enormous art collection, and they did not hold back. Marble staircases, domed ceilings, gold trim everywhere, and paintings that look like they belong in textbooks. But the cafe, perched in the rotunda under the dome, is the real masterpiece of this place. It's one of the prettiest places you'll ever sip a coffee or a wine.
The Hofburg wasn't just a palace. It was the center of the Habsburg Empire for 600 years. This family ruled from the 1200s all the way into the early 1900s, which means they shaped almost everything you see in the city today. They controlled huge parts of Europe and left behind palaces, museums, and a serious legacy. The complex is huge. You wander through courtyards and halls that look almost untouched by time, and it's easy to picture the carriages rolling in and out. And then there's Empress Elizabeth, better known as Sisi, who remains one of the most fascinating figures from that era. She married Emperor Franz Joseph when she was still a teenager. Vienna remembers her as both glamorous and tragic, somebody who never fully fit into the imperial mold she was placed in. While the Netflix show The Empress about Sisi was entertaining, the real Sisi's life was dramatic enough on its own, so it's always good to separate the historical facts from the TV version. This is also where you'll find the imperial apartments and the Sisi Museum. A short walk away is the Austrian National Library, and we had every intention of going in because the photos online were gorgeous, but it was actually sold out all 3 days that we were here, so we will just have to come back so that we can experience it for ourselves. For an easy lunch in Vienna, we stopped by 1516 Brewing Company, a casual brew pub right in the city center that's been pouring house-brewed beers since the late 90s. The name 1516 is a nod to the historic beer purity law, which feels on brand when you're sitting just a few steps from the brewing tanks. Simple, satisfying, and a solid Vienna lunch stop if you like your sightseeing with a pint.
Belvedere Palace is one of Vienna's prettiest power moves. Built in the early 1700s as a summer palace for Prince Eugene of Savoy, who clearly believed that summer homes should be just as impressive as full-time palaces. And it's actually two palaces facing each other across a long garden that feels almost theatrical when you walk through it. Inside the upper Belvedere, you'll move from room to room filled with Austrian art, and it's home to Gustav Klimt's The Kiss, so just be prepared to battle a few crowds near that painting. But the rest of the palace is just as impressive, full of art, ornate halls, and sweeping views over the city. But the story behind Belvedere is just as interesting. Prince Eugene was a brilliant military strategist who spent his later years turning this place into his personal retreat, a spot where he could entertain, think, and enjoy a little bit of luxury.
Christmas Eve, we are going to go catch up with Jason and Paige and then head to Christmas Eve dinner.
For Christmas Eve in Vienna, we booked a prefix dinner at Griechenbeisl, one of the city's oldest restaurants, with roots going all the way back to the 1400s. Dinner started with an appetizer plate, followed by soups, and then came the mains. Chris had lamb chops, and I went with the goose. With completely full bellies, it felt like the perfect way to end our time in Vienna, slowing down, soaking it all in, and closing out this trip on a really high note before heading home. That wraps up our time in Vienna.
If this helped you plan your own trip, or you just love exploring cities through food and drinks like we do, hit follow for more guides, videos, and smarter travel adventures. We've also got some really fun plans coming up to kick off 2026, so be sure you hit that subscribe so you don't miss our next video.
Thanks for watching.
Cheers, y'all.